to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, tonight's guest is Chuck Walder, our Jug County Auditor, to give us an update on our situation with our sending money back.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Kate Jacob, my compliance officer, kind of give you the details. But just to refresh everyone, so several years ago it was determined that a levy was placed on the ballot and passed with some fatal errors. And in doing so, the APA for Board of Elections discovered it in a spot audit at the Board of Elections, and then made recommendations to both the trustees as well as to my office that we should return that money that was collected under those pretenses to the particular taxpayers that it was drawn from. So we were made aware of this just about a year ago now. We had a lot of due diligence to perform, as you can imagine. I know I had several conversations with a variety of different trustees, and Dan has been real cooperative. We did hold the first half settlement this year, the money necessary to remunerate to the folks that paid those particular bills. And then what I wanted to provide for you tonight is kind of an update of where we are with that payment. We outsourced it to a law firm basically that does this for a living. And so Kate, if you wouldn't mind giving some of the details.
And I also we brought copies of our current distribution summary. I don't know if anyone should be, there's quite enough for everyone, but there should be some extras.
Thank you.
That's a little scary if they do this for a living.
Yeah, well,
I have some extras if you don't mind.
I mean, they had at least 2 Geauga customers. They're the same firm that did the return of the money for Geauga Public Health. And so, we had experience with them as a county, and they're very fair and they're very thorough, which were the 2 requirements that we wanted.
Sorry, here, and I didn't mean to leave you with all of these.
You can use my tape.
That's all right.
I'm fine.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. All right, so first, no, I'm good, I have a.
All right.
I want to repeat Chuck's note to thank Fiscal Officer Matsko and the trustees, obviously, for all of your cooperation, and also to AP and Chrissy Bryan. She was one who discovered this issue and helped everybody rectify it. My involvement with the auditor's office is from a compliance perspective. This project has been implemented by Pam McMahon, who's our office's Chief Operations Officer, and the audit budget staff, which you're probably familiar with. Tammy and Kristen are great. Under the, obviously, working closely with Auditor Walder. So the return of the road levy proceeds, as Chuck noted, being performed by American Legal Claims Services, LLC, at Auditor's office expense. The total anticipated return amount is approximately $752,000. American Legal has cleared approximately 81% of that, of the return funds, so about $644,000. There are approximately 14% of those funds outstanding, of the return funds rather outstanding, so they're still in process. 5% or roughly 27,000 of the return funds have been reported as undeliverable. There will be a second delivery attempted prior to those being sent to unclaimed funds. All of the issued warrants will become stale on July 23rd, after which the settlement can begin, as Chuck mentioned. Our office has received lots of positive communications from the residents appreciating the process and our openness, so we thought we'd bring that to your meeting and answer any questions and give you an update. So we were all on the same page. So if there's anything we can help with or answer any questions from anyone, we're here to help.
The undeliverables, those are people that may have moved or...
For the most part, it's people who left the area or passed away. They made an attempt to deliver for one reason or another. The certified letters got returned. They do multiple attempts, however, and they look for alternate methods. They'll do some Google searches, try to find the people. But at some point, some of these, no doubt, will end up in the unclaimed funds account, and they'll have remedy through that avenue. through the state.
I only have one resident, please contact me, I don't know about you guys, but she was upset because her mother owned 3 properties, and one of the properties was sold, and the check went to them.
New owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all based on timing, as
So
you
they-
know.
Yeah,
And that's what American Legal had to determine, is who owned it at the point in time that the amount was due and paid.
yeah.
So,
We had put ours in a couple of years ago, I'd put our house in a trust that my daughter's the trustee of.
So she
And
gets
she
the
got
money.
a nice check, and I got one for $19.30, so.
We also have something family-wise too. We transferred a lot or 2 from my 94-year-old dad to my sister, and he got a check. I'm square with you guys, but that, whatever happened in the interim there, and my sister's kind of a bulldog, so I'm sure somebody in your office has heard from her multiple times.
yeah, I think she'll probably be dealing directly with American Legal. They're the ones who looked at the window of
Okay.
when the requirement was. That's why we hired
Specialist.
a specialist in this arena. They did the same thing when they dealt with the health department. So our goal is to return it to the people who paid it. I mean, not necessarily the people who currently own the property.
Okay,
I was
so
copied on all the emails
as
back
far,
and forth between this one resident, and they seem to be happy with, it's gonna take them 90 days until, before that check can.
I thought we'd get a lot more questions or phone calls, but
No,
no, everybody seemed, obviously you guys got the word out, everybody was pretty familiar with what happened. And
Yeah, I think we sent you a copy of the letter that went out with
Yeah.
the original advice to people. And I think people just appreciated that they got notified. In a lot of times, it was something they didn't necessarily expect, and it was nice that they got it.
2 questions. One is, well, I guess it's one question. You're gonna resend some of these ones that were undeliverable.
Yeah, there will be a second attempt.
Okay, well, what ultimately will happen with the unclaimed funds?
Well, that gets sent, the state manages the unclaimed funds.
So give that to the Haslam's then.
Yeah, well, that would be the argument. Of course, it is a borrowing against that fund. It's not taking of the fund, but that's out of our control. Our responsibility is, after a certain window of time, we are by law required to return any money that isn't collected by somebody to be sent to the unclaimed funds account. What we have instituted in the last year, when we first started hearing that they may want to use that fund for other purposes, not necessarily its intended purpose, we internally in my office, before we transmit to the unclaimed funds file, we actually have 2 different individuals who put eyes on the names. Because we found that there were some cases where we identified those people, we recognized them. And so without that manually going through it, that would have gone through the system, and they would have to go out to the unclaimed funds system to collect it. So we are doing that, we are vetting it. I can't guarantee we'll be 100% accurate, but I think it's better than it's ever been before. And I share your concern with what the state is going to do with that fund long-term.
you stole my thunder. I was gonna say, with those unclaimed funds, why don't we compete with Brook Park and try to get the stadium here? We'll borrow against them. No, okay.
Now, Wednesday, July 23rd, is that like in the 90 days or something?
Yeah, that's when the checks become stale. So all the in-process checks that were delivered, whether received or not received, become virtually stale. And that doesn't mean that somebody going to the bank on, for example, July 24th, the bank may cash them, but there is no legal obligation for the bank to cash them. They could reject them because they're beyond the freshness date of the check. And in doing so, then American Legal will have to reissue the check. So the bank will generally tell somebody, yeah, this check is old, we're not comfortable cashing it. Reach out to them and we will reprocess another check. Maybe it got lost, maybe they didn't get it till late, maybe it took us a while to find them, whatever the reason.
Is that also the deadline for the money going into the unclaimed fund?
No, the clock doesn't even start until we're exhausting our attempts to
okay.
return it to the taxpayer. I'm going to drag that out as long as I physically can because I don't want to disperse the money to the unclaimed fund and then have somebody knock on our door and say, hey, we were in Europe for 6 months or something, you know, we didn't get all this.
Does anyone from the audience have any questions for Chuck? Any more questions from here?
No, I think this was, you know, unhoped for, and we sure didn't, nobody intentionally made any mistakes here, and this was a huge effort to get this money back.
Oh,
I can see that, so.
It was a real pain in the neck.
Yeah, I'm glad it went where it belonged for the most part, and I hope we can close it out that fully, yeah.
The last thing I'd like to bring to the board's attention, it's a totally unrelated matter, but it's very timely because I'm going to actually be speaking to the commissioners tomorrow about it. If any of you have been watching any of the local news outlets, there's been a rash for the last maybe 2.5 weeks of cyber attacks on government. And since you're under ADP, you know, I wanted to assure you that we have watched them and we have security umbrellas in place. We're fortunate to say that while we have seen attacks on our network, no attack was successful. We are one of a handful of counties who've actually joined together, and we're sharing and brokering who we're seeing the attacks coming from, so we can all blacklist those particular entities. Unfortunately, this particular event was a hotel network down in Columbus who was hosting a conference for the Engineers Association. And we're not sure exactly the approach, but it appears to have been what's called a man-in-the-middle attack, where they mimicked or gave a false QR code for people to be able to log onto the internet. And in fact, you were logging onto their site. And they would capture any data that was being exchanged. Ultimately, they were able to compromise a person who was at that conference from another county. It was from Belmont County.
A public employee?
A public employee with the engineer's office. They interrogated evidently that person's depository of email. They found the entire list of participants at that conference, harvested those, and then proceeded to blast every one of those entities through a known good email address of this person. So it targeted, and I'm not sure I remember all the counties, it hit Wayne, Ashtabula, Belmont, it hit Claremont, I believe. And those counties were all blocked immediately by us as soon as we saw the activity. Some got angry because they can't communicate, but our job is to protect Geauga, right? I mean, that's what our job is. But we're happy to report that the 5 other counties all banded together who weren't being affected, who had fairly strong security measures. And we agreed that we would, going forward, create kind of a coalition, that when we see these attacks, we tell each other, and that keeps a lot of other people from getting caught in the fray. This came at the heels of a very severe attack on Lorain County, where they were compromised and they paid ransom, a 7-figure ransom. And they are still today at minimum running rate. They were shut down for almost a full week. I had an auditors conference 2 weeks ago down in Dayton. The auditor from Lorain could not go. It was a week after the attack, and I talked to him on the phone, and he said, I can't wait. We're devastated. So, you know, it's interesting because I think people all worry about the cost of that security measure, but the cost to not do it is getting very close to home. I am very concerned daily of the number of attacks we've seen.
I don't want to go too far off in the weeds on this, but do they have the similar setup like we have developed here in the county?
No.
They don't.
We are very unique.
So this was county only got hit, not the townships, because they're
Well,
on their own?
Well, we see it propagating down the food chain. So this was a county entity that first attacked counties.
Yeah.
As they harvest data from those that they can get into, they're getting data from non-county entities.
I get it.
And it's going to spread to the general public. And so the cautionary word that I'm providing to the commissioners tomorrow, and you're getting kind of an early peek at it, is 2 basic things that we're advising people. When you travel, do not use public Wi-Fi. take a hotspot or use your phone as a hotspot. If you have a computer, tie to your phone or tie to something you know is safe. The second thing is, we're all so comfortable with these QR codes. I mean, they're on television, you know,
Yeah.
click here to go buy this or buy that. That is basically a doorway into the internet, and you don't know where that's taking you. So we believe people could go into these conferences knowing it's a bunch of government workers. They take 8.5, 11 sheet of paper, they post a QR code to a nefarious site, and they tell them, this is the public Wi-Fi, and they set it, put it to the wall, and they walk out. So all these phones click on it, go there, and start sharing data. And they appear to look like a valid site, but they're in fact a man in the middle.
So is your recommendation not to use any of these, or?
My recommendation on QR codes is do not click on them unless you're sure that you've interrogated them and you know they're true. And unfortunately, the general public trusts those because we've been taught to do that through advertising.
Because the Maple Leaf has one on the front page of their paper this week for the Geauga County Fair.
Here's the problem. I was in traveling back, I had to teach a class on Friday on budgets for a group of treasurers in Sandusky. So I was traveling from Dayton to Sandusky. And if you ever travel that route, like there's no freeways, right? So I had to stop for gas halfway. And I saw one of my fellow auditors had their gas pump sticker from the scale. I was looking for, you know, now that you're an auditor, you look at those and say, what are they doing? What do they look like? And they have a QR code on it. And when I put my thumb on it, it was a sticker
Oh.
on top of the QR code. So I called that auditor and I said, did you? Yeah, we made a mistake on the first QR code. We had a sticker of the new ones. Well, if I was a nefarious person, I'd have these and I'd sticker over top of them.
up there.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think like a crook. And unfortunately, we all have to get smarter. But I worry that even if the public, the general public is compromised, they communicate with us as, you know, as their representatives. And they could send us a bad payload, and if we click on it, we're all infected.
And Township's not part of ADP. We had one fairly recently who had an incident that fortunately the nefarious agent communicated with someone from the county who's flagged it as suspicious. Otherwise, we wouldn't know.
Yeah, it was a township in Geauga. They
It's now part of
received
ADP at the time.
a vendor got an email from the fiscal officer asking about payment of an invoice. And that vendor said, this is weird. I'm not expecting anything, and I don't owe you anything. You owe me money. You're asking me to pay you. And when she started interrogating it, she said, I didn't send you an email. So she called us for help, and we went in and interrogated her office and found that there was no trace of it. However, there was a rule that had been created in her Microsoft Outlook that took email, routed it to another source, and then deleted it out of her inbox. So it was in fact her, but she didn't know it was her. So we proceeded then to lock down that system, but fortunately no money was transferred, but it was a very tentative situation for quite a while because, you know, I don't know if you know this, a couple of years ago, Newberry actually paid people because they were told to change a bank routing number.
Yeah.
So it's getting very close to home. My encouragement is, better to be safe than sorry. And if you go and don't go to the airport, use public Wi-Fi, take a hotspot, use your cell phone. Don't click on QR codes if you're not familiar with it, you're not trusting. I think you can trust a Maple Leaf, but I wouldn't trust a print ad if there's a sticker on it. I just wouldn't do that.
You can trust us, I'm with Maple Leaf.
Yeah.
We're not trying to steal your.
But it may not be them doing it, but let's say somebody grabs a paper and puts a sticker over it. I mean, how do you know, you know?
And there are ads that are put on.
There are.
Applied like
Yep.
stickers, yeah.
I mean, you have to start thinking, how would I do it if I were a crook? And chances are they're thinking the same way.
You know, I got scammed on the turnpike thing. Remember when the turnpike?
Oh, yeah, you got a
because
fine,
I was
you have
on
to
the
pay.
turnpike.
Yep.
And I got a package. I ordered a large tent. It came in, but there was still $23 of fees on it when they sent it to me. I wrote the UPS man a check. I just got a letter yesterday. It looks like it's from the UPS and wanting to know why I didn't pay this fee of $23. So I'm wondering, do I even bother to call that 800 number from the thing? It's crazy.
It makes you paranoid.
It does.
You're under ADP, so when we blacklist on your behalf. So you're not going to get barraged with these queries.
I'm really grateful for the work you guys are doing.
Yeah, I want to give
Yeah.
Dan some credit, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was your initiative to move over to ADP about when you started, give or take.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the first thing we did.
It's, it's a firewall that we didn't realize how much we needed.
And I didn't mean to hijack your meeting with this
Oh,
issue.
no.
I wanted to give you the freshest data, and the commissioners will hear this tomorrow, but we had 7 members of our staff that worked basically 2 weeks in 1 week, doing nothing but blocking and checking and blocking and checking.
It's gonna become a whole new department.
Well, we actually
It
did this
is.
a couple of months ago, which was a godsend that we did it. But, our job is to protect the taxpayers and the money in the treasury. I don't want to see that being paid out.
We had a contractor come to our house to give us a quote on installing blinds. And while she's there, I got to get on my pad to bring up the quote. And she says, I'm going to try to use the hotspot on my phone, which I thought was kind of odd that her tablet could have its own hotspot or whatever. So after making numerous attempts, she calls somebody on the help desk, and she's got him on the speakerphone. And after, supposedly, he's accessing her tablet. I'm thinking, how can he access her tablet
If she's not on the-
if she's not on the internet?
Yeah.
Then he says, ask the client for their Wi-Fi password. And I, right then and there, I says, that's it. And I think if it hadn't been for all the attention, your group, I might have done it.
Yeah.
But I'm paranoid, so, and I said, I got them out of there as quick as I could.
Yeah.
But, yeah, your group is phenomenal. And they send those fake phishing emails all the time.
Yeah.
Just made me very suspicious every time I get.
I know.
I'll tell you though, they look extremely legal.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the illuminating company or something, I've gotten stuff that's
It
just,
used to be that they always had, terrible spelling, and
Yeah.
you could tell it was a conversion of
Yeah.
language. Anymore, they're
very hard.
they're very hard to tell. So I just wanted to give you that feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for coming in and going over all this with us. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
We're gonna
you can
take
leave.
off if that's
Please
okay.
do.
Yeah, keep us posted, is that there's the end of the whole program.
Yeah, we'll keep sending Dan the intermediate examples, but as we reach the end, before it goes to any sort of state-driven thing, I'll make sure that you're in that.
Maybe if, at the end, if you got unclaimed funds and they're listed by name, maybe we ought to, as a board, take a
Put
look
eyes on
at
it?
them.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm
They're
happy to
really
do
good
that.
idea.
Yeah, I'll have Pam reach out, and she can send it over to Dan, you guys can peruse it. Because you may know what happened. Well, they moved to Arizona or Florida or
Right,
whatever,
right,
maybe track down that way.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Okay, moving on with our agenda, we'll now approval of the minutes. Mr. Kavanaugh, do you have an opportunity to go through the minutes?
I did, I wasn't here, but they look pretty good, I guess. Make a motion that we approve.
As I see anything that needs to be changed, I will second that motion, and we'll call for the vote.
PJ?
Yes.
Gene?
Yes. Okay. Next on the agenda is Chief John Phillips' report. As we know, Chief's not here tonight, and Doug is here to
Yes.
give us an update on it.
You want me to stand up there? I don't.
You can do whatever you like.
Okay. It's a small room, I'll just sit here. Our period right here, January to May of 2025, our EMS calls so far this year is 248. The same period last year was 254. Total fire calls this year, 170. Last year, same period, was 133. Our total call volume is up 418 this year compared to 387 last year. Our mutual aid given is 111. Same time time last year was 69. So it's a pretty good increase on that. Mutual aid received, that's 64. Same period last year was 21. Our total transports for this period was 167. Same time last year was 171. Total non-transports, those could be sign-offs, everywhere. 114. Same time last year was 108. Total transfers to other agencies, 4. Last year was 1. And our total patients, 285 this year compared to 280 last year. And our percentage of multiple calls, that's grown from last year. We're at 26.32% compared to 21.70% from last year. The double and triple hits continuing to increase. Any questions on any of that?
Any questions, Mr. Kavanaugh?
Yeah, do you guys keep track of these multiple calls at the same time if they involve mutual aid?
We keep any call, every call, no matter if it's in town, mutual aid. There are times where we'll get a multiple call where it's mutual aid, we have to deny if we do not have manpower to respond. And it's universal, it goes across the county, area, everyone's the same thing. If you can't, then you have to deny it.
Okay.
Any questions from any residents? Okay, thank you so much.
The only additional
Oh.
thing, Chief wanted to say the clam bake is going to be September 27th. All right.
I'll be there.
Actually, yeah, I'm working on this.
That's getting later, but that's still a good time to have them, so,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, if it's too warm, it doesn't feel like clam bake weather, you know? You want those little crisp in the air, right?
Like we used to have in late August, or,
Yeah.
we used to have that, sweat in there, it'd be 100 degrees.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Mr. Kavanaugh, do you have any reports?
I just wanted to mention Cleanup Day, which, once again, is always a success, and residents, I think, appreciate it. And, well, you get a lot of suggestions about maybe doing this a second time during the year, but don't know if we need to jump into that just yet. Dan, was that in your report, am I stepping on your toes?
No, that's
there a little
fine.
bit
While you're talking about, I'll just say that we collected $606, $221 more than last year. Based on the list we took, we had 116 vehicles came through, 48 of them were paid, either a small load or a large load. The unpaid, 68 unpaid were either seniors or they brought tires only, because that was also free. So anyone over 60 was free, and if you brought tires only, that was also free. So
I worked the first hour and a half before the action kind of died down there. And we had everything from get a station, some little SUV with 2 lawn chairs, to guys coming in with boards like this with half a dozen nails, rotten boards with nails sticking out of them. They had to pick off by hand. So it was, it gets used. Some people should probably just have bonfires. Oh, I didn't say that. But
Your mouth.
Yeah. I don't know how many dumpsters we fill.
I don't know.
We had about, I think we were working on the 4th, and the tires were damn near full by 9:30 when I left. So, yeah. Anyway, I think the residents appreciate it. I think we'll do it again. So
Okay,
that's it.
all right.
Everything else on the agenda.
I have no reports, so I'll go right to Dan.
Okay, as far as payments processed since the last meeting, 18 electronic payments for $38,985.12, and 20 warrants processed for $119,455.99, for a total of $158,441.11. In February, the state sent all the fiscal officers a new printer and laptop with the latest UAN software for our accounting software. And the existing printer that I had, it's 4 years old, and as well as the laptop. So I asked the different departments if anybody could use the printer. They said no. So called around some other townships, and the practice is that the board would normally make a motion to accept because the state doesn't want them back. So they said we could keep the printer and the laptop. So the normal thing that most townships do is the board makes a motion to accept the printer and laptop as township property, and then dispose of them as our bylaws say. And I think we put stuff on gov.deals.
I was just gonna say.
It was in the organizational
Yeah.
minutes, I
Right.
believe.
Yeah, yeah. It's like if we were selling a piece of equipment or
Mhm.
something.
So if one of you want to make a motion to accept that the printer and laptop is township property, the laptop will probably give to the county ADP and they'll scrub it. And
Do we have to put an evaluation on that? We used to at one point.
I don't believe so.
I'll make the motion.
Well,
Put it in.
okay. You mean evaluation to put on gov.deals?
That it's worth, I think the motion used to be less than $2,500.
Oh, well, it's less than 2,500.
That used to be part of the motion we made. That's just from my recollection. It's been a few years.
Motion made, BJ.
Second.
I'll second.
EJ? Gene?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Um, just to update you, Gene, on the community park. I'm tracking it from a fiscal standpoint because of the time involved from when you initiated it last year to, we're getting invoices as the different phases are completed, and you signed off on a warrant today for the final payment of phase 3 of $1,717. So the final, phase 2, apparently according to the program manager at, is it Buckley, or whatever it's called? Phase 2 is not necessary.
Right.
So the only phase we got left is $5,200 for phase 4, whatever is involved there, and I think that's has to do with, they will help get quotes or something like that.
Right.
I talked to Mike Fenstermaker today, and
Okay.
he said if that's the case, that would be great. If that's the, so you may want to get with Mike to see
Sure.
how that's,
Absolutely.
get that thing pursued. Another thing that we paid for is that, I don't know if you noticed, the cell booster. They finally got that installed in the
Yes.
road garage.
Right.
Total of $7,058.74, and my understanding is their cell phones work great.
No, they work. Okay.
So-
There is a problem down there. I've had that
Yeah.
with my phone.
Yeah.
So I guess everything's way up, and it's powered up near the ceiling at the top, and from what I understand, it's all working. So, yep, that's all I got.
Before I get into business, PG, at the last meeting, I was told that Katie McGrath from the school
Mhm.
was looking to put together some kind of museum concerning Bainbridge and Auburn
Oh.
in one of the rooms over there, I think in Garden or whatever. And so, do you know Katie McGrath?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. You might want to get with her because you know more what's going on
Yeah.
down at that museum than anybody.
There's some stuff that would be appropriate.
Absolutely. There's
Dad's,
a lot of pictures of me.
my dad's Auburn leather jacket is hanging down there. Climate control would probably be
Yeah.
better for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, might give us a little more.
The red cats, there were red cats.
Oh, you also didn't hear, but I got a call from someone at the Bainbridge Museum who came down Memorial Day to see our display, but it was already locked and we were all gone. So,
Yeah, I hung there till, it was after 11. There was one fellow that wanted to look at all the maps. He was
Yeah.
a map head like I am. So we stayed there and looked at maps, and then he took the last 2 boxes of donuts, which kind of ticked me off. But, that's what it was. But yeah, so yeah, we didn't linger. Usually it goes till 11:30. We didn't go that long this year.
Okay. Anyway, we got the bill for we paid the Buckeye Power Sales for to take care of the generator.
Yeah, the 3-year plan maintenance agreement.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we have a resolution 2025-09 for a certificate of need for a road levy that'll be up next year. PJ, you got a copy? We all have copies.
Yes, and there's some specifics about this that probably will cause us all to cringe, but it's been checked, double-checked, triple-checked through the prosecutor's office twice. What this is gonna do, we're renewing this early. It is a renewal. It's originally passed in, I believe it was,
2020,
no,
last voted on in 2020.
well, that's when we voted on it
Yeah.
last, but the origin of it, and that's what the amount is based on, I think goes back to 2008 or 7 or 6 or something like that. It's been renewed several times, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. And
okay.
of course, there's that rollback, so.
Right.
You're paying less than a current 1 mil evaluation on
Right.
this. All right, the other thing is we're doing this early.
That's
for
because
one
we have
reason.
we have another levy next
Right,
year.
for one reason and one reason only. That's why we so thoroughly checked this, because we've tried to do this before, and I think we talked about what happened
Right.
in that case. All right, so this will get us back on, we'll have, at no point should we have 2 levies on at the same time,
Right.
should this pass. And residents have been awful good with renewals.
Absolutely.
So I think that's as important as what we collect, is to get back on that, where annually we're asking for the residents to give their consent for what we're doing here, or their approval for what we're doing here. So, I don't wanna get to the point where we have 2 levies running at the same time again. That's dangerous for everybody involved. So, that can put a road department right out of business. Or road program, anyway.
So that's been sent, this has been sent to the auditor's office.
No,
Prosecutor's
Not yet,
office.
prosecutor's office.
You have to vote on it.
Yeah, prosecutor's office several times.
Okay. So we're good with that.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-09,
And I'll second it.
the 1 mil levy renewal.
EJ,
Yes.
Gene.
Yes. The next thing under new business is the tuition loan agreement with our new employee. Did you have an opportunity to go over this, Pete?
Oh, yeah.
Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I think, we've been kicking this around. I think this has
Right.
been mentioned in public meetings several times. Nate, our most recent hire, Nathan Munn, has been with us now for months. We hired him he had been working at the county. He saw an opportunity here. He's working out great. The guys, I worked with him for cleanup day up there. The guy's, he's all in here. So what we ended up with, and this is just the way of the world these days, you can advertise for a guy with a CDL, but you sure are limited in your pool of people you can hire. This is a younger gentleman. He's kind of chosen his career path. We like him. So we're trying to do something, and Keith, you guys at the fire department helped us out with this quite a bit, because you have similar situations that, somebody will need a license or a certification. And we need a CDL for Nathan. So what we came up with is a plan where we would front the money for the cost of doing this, up to $2,600, and then some additional stuff for lodging, meals, and travel. He commits to working with us for a minimum after he gets this of 24 months. Or else there'll be some recoupage involved, which is gonna be difficult to do, granted, but I think the guy's proven himself to be, everybody seems to like him. Seems like a good guy. I know some family. Mike knows, fence maker knows his family. I think it's the right move to make, and also I think it's something that's gonna be happening in the future for all these kind of
Right.
restaffing things.
Do we need to make a motion to accept this? And
I think we
at the next
should. We've
meeting?
talked about it in public.
All
Yeah, we've talked about this enough that I think we need to put it behind us at this point.
Make the motion.
So I will make a motion to enter into this tuition loan agreement with Nathan Munn in order for him to obtain the Class B CDL.
I will second that.
PJ,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes. Okay, seasonal hours, the service department.
Yeah, and on this, I generally like to bring up an idea like this and let it sit, let it cook for 2 weeks and then come back to it. This is not something we did on this one, and I prefer to do it that way, but that's now how this works because these are seasonal hours and it's something that we should deal with directly. All right, so north and south of us, they've gone to 4 10-hour days during the week. Newberry has been in this program for, have been doing it this way for eight years. And it's something our employees would wish to handle this way as well. We're talking about we're gonna deal with this annually. We're not gonna make any change to our personal policy manual for this reason. There's a sentence in there right now, this is from the employee handbook, where it specifies 8 hours, 5 days a week, but it also says the Board of Trustees may vary these hours according to need, and to improve the efficient delivery of services. So we'll look at this every year because I don't think, a decision that is admittedly kind of quick is something we want to commit to black and white until we see how it plays out. So at this point, they're talking about doing this from now until October. It would start, Dan, I don't know when you would start, next pay period, I don't know how you want to do this, but,
well, it's intended to start the first Monday after the trash day.
after cleanup day, yeah.
And my understanding is they could start it this week.
I know he's got a tentative schedule set up for this week already.
I have a few concerns
I do
about
too, but
this.
go ahead.
My first concern is, we're in the service to take care of Auburn residents. Who's gonna take care of things down there on a Friday if everybody's gone? Is somebody gonna be on call? In the winter, when it's plow season, they're on call 24/7. So I'm assuming they're on call 24/7 now, but who's gonna be down there to answer a call? Does the superintendent, does our superintendent stay? Does this just affect the regular employees and not the superintendent? Is he gonna be here to answer the phone?
His proposal is no, it's the entire crew. He will not be here on Fridays. And I got the same kind of things too. He's looking at scheduling Monday through Thursday. And I said, Mike, there's four factors right off the top of my head that I can come up with.
If a tree falls down over in the yard, nobody gets.
Well, if somebody
who's gonna
calls
take
him
that tree
in,
down?
our guys always come in, period. This is not, we're not altering that requirement of the job at all. So, and it's the same list I came up with: weather, storm, what you just said, funerals. Are we covered for 4 days or 5 days? There is a way, would require some math, but you rotate guys off on a Monday and a Friday, so you keep a crew in 5 days a week. It'd be a smaller crew. Somebody runs over a raccoon or a deer, in a cul-de-sac. Who's coming in on a Thursday? Who's coming in to pick that up, over the weekend? I know you're not gonna do it because you're squeamish.
You got
probably
that
all
right,
do.
that, no.
Uh,
Unless I can take it home and eat it.
Well, if it's fresh, we'll let you know. This is, I'm not.
I know, we're just throwing this out because, like you said, you like to keep these going for a while, so I'm with you on this one, because My next concern is, and you might have addressed it, I'm not sure, but, so, we're gonna pay them for 40 hours, they're gonna add extra hours to their Monday through Thursday to get the 40 hours.
Yes.
Now, if I call them in on Friday, am I paying overtime now?
You would, yes.
You would.
Unless there's a vacation, sick time, or holiday during that week.
Now, the flip
You only
side,
get paid for hours worked.
I mean, even in the winter, we send them home during the day if they know they might be called in at night to plow to avoid overtime.
Yeah, the other side of this, Gene, from a management standpoint, is we got Ludwig, Sturm, they've got some years in there. They're up there at the 4-week vacation now, aren't they, Dan?
Yeah.
Annually, which our guys have always done this, and to this day they're doing this. They take those during this, what would be the seasonal period. They don't take them in the winter.
Right.
We're often at 3 men down there anyway. And there are some one-man jobs. I put some thought into this. There are some one-man jobs that could be done, such as paperwork or cleaning the building or roadside mowing. And I may have adamantly said, don't think we're cutting back on our roadside mowing. In fact, we're behind on roadside mowing. Get out there already, you know. He assured me that there's a plan. They finished the park and they're back on the roads here imminently.
So if someone,
I just made notes too. I have some concerns.
if someone were to call on Friday down there, does that call automatically go to Mike at home? Or where does that call go?
It's up
Is
to
it gonna
us.
come in here to
It's up
Nancy?
to us. If we go with this 4-day work week, 4 10s, what do we want? It says right there in the policy manual, may vary these hours according to need.
I think there's a lot more to think about on that. I agree with you on this, because there's just something about, for me, again, they're there to serve the residents of Auburn, and, you know, it's not like one of those jobs where you can just say, well, let's cram it all into 4 days, and because it's spread out. Things happen on a daily basis that you don't know if it's coming up or not. And so, I don't know, how many, do the math for me, how many hours are we gonna add to their day from,
They're gonna start at 6:30. So it'll be
4
6:30.
10-hour days.
Yeah,
gets
6:30 to
anything done at
4:30.
6:30? How many actual hours of work are we gonna get by doing that? That's my next question. You know, there's an old saying, if the job starts at 8 and you punch in at 8, you're late. You're supposed to be on the job at 8. That's just, but I'm just throwing it out, I'm thinking out loud.
When we do have a full crew, and picture a ditching job, which that's kind of what happens in the summertime, you know. Usually by this point, most of the patching and the preparatory work for resurfacing has been done. You need 4 guys.
Right.
You need a flagger type guy, you need probably 2 trucks and an operator for the haul. You're mobilizing. The superintendent pitched this is, you know, if you're gonna do the mobilizing and you got the full crew together, as he's saying we'll have for 10 hours a day, you can finish that job sometimes that you gotta redo the next day to come back to close it off. I get that to some degree. I work pretty long hours in the summertime as well. There are, you know, a daylight should be taken advantage of. Another one of my concerns, Gene, and there are some, you know, I'm not advocating for this.
Right, I understand.
I'm just giving the proposal that our guys would like to do. If we're scheduling Monday through Thursday rigidly, and forecasting's pretty good these days, like the Saturday rain we had, they called for that a week ahead of time. So if we're gonna have a frog choker on Wednesday, where, you know, ditch work maybe isn't doable for 2 days, what happens when it is doable on Friday, and, oh, that's our day off? How fluid are they gonna be in their scheduling? We should have some fluidity in the scheduling.
Why does it have to be on Friday?
Doesn't, I wouldn't think.
Why
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Why can't it be on
I
Wednesday?
mean, you're always gonna have a forecasting screw up, but if they're saying heavy rain on Monday, why is everybody coming in on Monday? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how we specify, but I want you to think about this.
I
I can,
And I know a lot of people are moving in this direction, I get that too, but it just seems like in a government job, you know, our main goal is to take care of our residents, and some jobs don't fit into that thing.
So you would want resident calls forwarded to the superintendent on Friday?
Well, I sure as heck don't want Nancy sitting here taking calls when somebody's telling her that there's a tree down across Taylor May.
Well,
or-
we
But
saw-
now that there's another call involved, and then there's a matter of getting people in here.
We subsidize their
I
cell
realize
phones,
it. Off the
so
top of
I
my
don't
head,
think
it doesn't
that's
excite
not
me.
unreasonable. And scheduling, it sounds like that's pretty much where you're at. Phone calls forwarded on Fridays, in other words, maintain contact on 5 days a week. And scheduling.
Well, I'm also thinking, again, just off the top of my head, maybe the superintendent doesn't work for the superintendent. Maybe the superintendent needs to be here every day, and then if something comes up, a tree goes down, he knows help, he's already there in the office to call somebody to get in here. I mean, as a superintendent, he's making more than the rest of the employees. And he's making that because he's in charge. And if he's in charge, then he should probably be here. That's, again, just off the top of my head. I'm not, you know, because we know how that goes. What's gonna happen, there's a situation come up, you're gonna get a call, I'm gonna get a call, Mike's gonna get a call, Nancy's gonna get a call, and everybody's gonna get a call, except the people who need to call, who aren't here.
Yeah, I did ask him specifically several, well, I think I kind of went over my list a little bit there. Somebody dies on a Monday. That funeral's gonna be on Friday, because they don't wanna pay our overtime hours on Saturday. But then we're paying overtime hours on Friday. And that's pretty much the timeline on a funeral, right? Isn't somebody dies on a Sunday or Monday, the funeral's probably on
Oh,
Friday?
hell, I'm not going there, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Well, it is, it is. And good luck to go to a wedding this weekend, because usually when I go out, it's for a funeral.
It's because you're at that age. I don't know, I think this needs a lot more pondering.
Well,
So,
ponder, please
pondering.
do, please do.
Like I said, I understand the concept and it makes sense, but it's just, this is the kind of job that, I don't know, if everybody has to do this, like.
I think a
do
full,
one guy
well,
a
I'm
week
gonna,
or-
I'm also thinking a full board. This is something different we haven't done. It's probably something a full board should decide.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we'll, I don't know how,
Mike's on vacation, he'll
Mike's
come
on
back with a clear
vacation.
head and he'll be able to
Yeah.
make a good decision too.
This came up with Fenstermaker and I'm gonna, it was before the last meeting, but just before the last meeting, which I admittedly took off to start planting, because that was the first day I could plant. I had put no thought into it at all on the second, anyway.
Right.
So, we're much further downstream now, I'm glad you're thinking about it. Let's put a bug in Mike's ear, and maybe we can decide up or down at the next meeting.
If Newberry's been doing this for 8 years,
Yeah.
obviously they've got this worked out. But then again, what's Newberry's population? How many miles of road does Newberry take care of? What are the issues that Newberry has that maybe we have that they don't have, you know?
Well,
Those are kind
they're
of
much
questions,
closer
too.
to us than a Troy or a Parkman,
Yeah.
so,
I'd like to bring one of their trustees in here and explain this to us and.
Nancy
and
left
parts
it.
of it. Yeah,
I don't know
I
if she
see
left
it.
you a note there.
As she talked to Greg, but,
Yeah, and he had the same thing, he says, sometimes we have things come up on Fridays.
like he said if he had to make a different suggestion, he would have at least one man on duty on Fridays to handle any emergencies or things like the park garbage during the summer or.
Well, this is what, and, you know, it was actually in the minutes here too.
Right.
They, from last meeting, in Mike's report, removed a deer at White Oak and Bartholomew. Well, what if they had dead things out there on a Thursday night, and it's gonna sit there till Monday? Look, Gino's will pick it up, look it.
I don't like that.
Something else, Friday, they empty dumpsters on Mondays and Fridays. Well, of course, they could move that to Thursday. But then you got garbage sitting there for 5 days, so. 4 days.
I think we should ponder it some more, and we'll get some new insight when Mike gets back, and we'll discuss it. Like I said, I understand the concept, and I understand a lot of people are moving in that direction. But I also want to make sure that our residents do not suffer because of this either, so.
Right, I want our guys happy,
Right.
I do, but this is almost an experimental
Right.
thing. We're not gonna commit to this in the policy manual at all, we're gonna leave that sentences where we can vary this as needed, you know, until, and maybe we won't even do it then, but we're gonna find something that works, and, well, according to people that have done this, that's kind of a hole there, that what happens on a Friday when nobody's around. So,
Okay.
So you're tabling
We're,
discussion?
we're tabling.
it sounds like this
and
is to be tabled.
Table it, you know what I'm talking about when I say
Table
table it?
Yeah.
Table it. Okay.
I would like to give them an up or down at the next meeting, though, I would.
Well, you gotta give Mike a little chance to
Yeah, we do.
think about it too.
Agreed.
I think we have 3 weeks till the next meeting.
Yeah.
Do we really?
I believe so.
16th, yeah, there's a 30th in June.
Yeah. 7th is the next meeting. So,
Well, there you have it.
Okay. Well, we'll
plenty
table
of
it.
time to
Well,
ponder.
somebody give Mike a call, have Nancy say.
Yeah, we
that
will.
you already talked, so he has time to think about it. Okay, I already mentioned the quote that we got from Buckeye Power Sales, we've already paid the bill, so the Adam Paul generator will be maintained for 3 years and.
And we have a
Under that agreement,
contract.
we
We
have a
want
contract.
a motion
I'll make a motion
to
that we
accept the contract.
accept the contract.
Second.
EJ,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes. Who's signing, me?
yeah,
Print,
you're chairman.
president.
Fire department has that 3-year contract with Buckeye.
I believe so, yes.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anyone from the audience that wants to bring up anything to address the board while you're here? No?
You have to sign above your name.
I say right
You
there.
print it, now you
Oh,
have
I
to
see,
sign.
Oh, okay. Are you guys fighting that you're sitting here and he's sitting in the back?
No, no.
Is everything okay at home?
Yeah, I think he's
He's
sleeping
sleeping?
right now.
He's taking over for Carl tonight?
He's had a long day.
Okay.
With grass cutting and,
Listen, if I needed to catch some disease, this is the first place I'd come to.
yeah.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Kavanaugh, anything you want to bring up? Or okay, so save the dates. We have the Auburn Bainbridge fireworks at Kenston High School on July 3rd. On the 4th will be our annual 4th of July picnic and parade, which will kick off at 11 o'clock at the Meadows subdivision. And like Dan just said, our first meeting of Board of Trustees will be on the 7th of July here at the Administration Building. And the next day, the BZA will meet at 7 o'clock. On the 10th, the Zoning Commission will meet at 7 o'clock. And then we'll be back here on the 21st of July for the month. Other than that, I'll make the motion of motions to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
You have a second?
I have a second and a motion, so Dan?
EJ,
Yes.
Gene?
Yes. Meeting adjourned.